Rogue, kitty, 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 kitty. Hi, Rogue. It's time to do book club. Are you gonna come do it? Apparently not. He went back to his bath. Daisy Ray's here. She can help me with Rogue's book club. Right. Hi, everybody. How are you today? I'm Renee from Salem Public Library in Salem, Ohio, and this is Rogue's Reads, our virtual book club for kids in 4th to 8th grade. We finished the first Genius Files book yesterday, and that was a long one, so hopefully you stuck with it to get to the end. That was kind of a brutal end. Pep and Coke ended up in the Infinity Room of the House on the Rock with Dr. Warsaw, who, although he developed the Genius Files, is completely evil. And they ended up pushing him through the hole in the floor, and he fell at least 150 feet to the forest. So we're assuming he passed away. But Coke and Pep escaped, which is good because we don't want them trapped by the evil bad guys. So we are on book 2, The Genius Files, Never Say Genius, also by Dan Gutman. This is just book 2 in the series, so we're going to continue on. So they're continuing. They were in Wisconsin at the end of, because that's where the House on the Rock is. So at the end of Mission Unstoppable, that's where they were. I'm going to dive into reading this pretty quickly here because it's midweek and, well, the sun is out, so hopefully everybody gets out and enjoys the sunshine today. It's a little cold, but it's pretty. Rogue is sitting in a sunspot and can't be bothered to do book club, so we're going to do it without him. This is, so, The Genius Files, Never Say Genius by Dan Gutman. So big thanks to Dan Gutman and HarperCollins Publishing for allowing us to use your books this way. Dan Gutman is awesome and was actually one of the first authors who kind of jumped out and said, yes, please use my material and share it with everybody. So huge thanks to him for being such a big supporter of everybody, that's all the librarians and teachers who are trying to retain some normalcy with our book clubs and reading. So here we go. The Genius Files, Never Say Genius. This is book 2. Okay. Chapter 1. What the heck happened? There were 8 items on Coke McDonald's to-do list on June 25th, but having his body lowered into a vat of boiling oil was not one of them. Sing happy birthday to Pep was on the list. Do a dump was on the list. Wash my clothes was on the list. Clean up my stuff was on the list. But nothing about being lowered into a vat of boiling oil. And yet, oddly enough, having his body lowered into a vat of boiling oil, along with his sister Pepsi, was the one thing that Coke McDonald was actually going to do on June 25th. Hold on for just a minute here. Before I tell you how Coke and Pep were lowered into a vat of boiling oil, you really need to read a book called The Genius Files, Mission Unstoppable, which we just did, so we should be caught up. If you haven't read that, if you're just now joining us, please go back 2 weeks and start at the beginning so you know what's going on. Because if you didn't read that book, this one is going to make no sense at all. It would be pointless. So get a copy of that book and read it. Then come back and start this one again. Go ahead. I'll wait. Okay, did you read it? Hopefully, if you're doing this book club, you did. Oh, dang it. He's accusing us of being liars. What do you want me to do? Read it to you? You lazy bum. If you are a lazy bum, you're in luck. I already read the whole thing to you. So just find our videos from a couple weeks ago. If you don't want to read The Genius Files, Mission Unstoppable, get the audiobook. If you're really lazy, you can just Google it and read the summary online. What do I have to do? Tuck you into bed at night too? Sheesh, I'm busy. What's the matter with you kids today? Fine, don't read The Genius Files, Mission Unstoppable. See if I care. Basically, this is what happened. Are you guys ready? This is everything that happened in book 1 if you weren't following along. Coke and Pep, they're twins, were walking home from their school in California when a mysterious guy wearing a bowler hat started chasing them in a golf cart. Some lady wearing all red named Maya appeared out of nowhere and threw an exploding frisbee grenade to take out the bowler dude. But Coke and Pep had to jump off a cliff after Maya got hit in the neck by a tranquilizer dart shot by another mysterious bowler dude, the first guy's brother, riding a golf cart. Luckily, Maya had given the twins wingsuits to wear so they could jump off the cliff, fly through the air, and land safely on the beach. Whew, okay. Following me so far? Good. You see, what Coke and Pep didn't realize is that they had been recruited to be part of a secret government program run by the eccentric Dr. Herman Warsaw. He's a genius inventor who had decided that the grown-ups of the world were hopeless. The only way to solve our problems would be to use the skills of the smartest kids in America. He called his program, wait for it, the Genius Files. As a reward for being part of this dangerous program, the kids were promised $1 million when they turned 21. Unfortunately, it didn't look like Coke and Pep would ever reach that birthday because someone was trying very hard to kill them. The next day, at school, they were locked in the detention room and almost burned alive when the school was set on fire. The fire was set by their germphobic health teacher, Mrs. Higgins, who turned out to be an evil psychopath. Fortunately, the twins were rescued by the obese, deaf-mute janitor Bones, who turned out to be skinny and quite talkative after he removed his fat suit. Bones was part of the Genius Files team, as was Maya, to track the McDonald twins. Every move, he used a staple gun to implant tiny GPS devices designed by Dr. Warsaw into their skulls. Whew. I don't know, guys. I'm not sure I can read all this in 5 breaths? Okay. Still with me? Great. The next day, the twins started on a cross-country summer RV trip with their clueless parents, who must never learn about the Genius Files program. Along the way to their Aunt Judy's wedding in Washington, D.C., Coke and Pep watched a building blow up moments after they left it, were pushed into a ditch at the top of a singing sand dune in Nevada and left to die there, witnessed their dad go through his midlife crisis by seeing how fast he could drive the RV on the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah, visited lots of oddball tourist destinations, a museum devoted to Pez dispensers, the National Yo-Yo Museum, the largest ball of twine in the world, and the second largest ball of twine in the world, because their mom runs a popular website called Amazing But True. Oh, I gotta take a breath here. We're thrown into a giant vat of spam in Minnesota, dropped 5 days worth of human waste on the head of Mrs. Higgins, their germphobic psychopath health teacher, remember. We're given a series of increasingly difficult secret messages which they had to decipher, had a climactic confrontation with the person who had been trying to kill them. In the end, guess who was trying to kill Coke and Pep the whole time? It was Dr. Warsaw, the inventor of the Genius Files. Who'd have thunk it? Whew. Okay, let's see you try to sum up a 304-page book in just 3 breaths. All right, I'm going to return to reading at normal speed now. The story wasn't nearly as complicated as it sounds if you read the Genius Files Mission Unstoppable. It just seems that way when you try to compress a lot of stuff into a few paragraphs. Anyway, that's basically what happened in the first book. Now you don't have to read it yourself. You could even write a book report on it if you wanted to. Definitely read it. It's a really fun book. Our new story begins in Spring Green, Wisconsin, where Mission Unstoppable left off. If you'd like to follow the McDonalds on their trip east to Washington, it's easy. Get on the internet and go to Google Maps, MapQuest, Rand McNally, or whatever navigation website you like best. Go ahead. I'll wait. Okay. Now type in Spring Green, Wisconsin, and click Search Maps, and click the little plus or minus sign on the screen to zoom out until you get a sense of where the twins are. See it? That's our starting point, so it's up in Wisconsin. Now that we've gotten all that preliminary nonsense out of the way, let's get to the cool part. The part where Coke and Pep get lowered into a vat of boiling oil. Yikes. Chapter 2. You want fries with that? Happy birthday to you. It was June 25th. The McDonald family, Coke, Pep, and their mom Bridget, and dad, Dr. Benjamin McDonald, were sitting in the RV in the parking lot of the house on the rock. Mrs. McDonald had baked a little cake in the microwave oven. Dr. McDonald stuck 13 cakes in it and lit them. That's the problem with getting older. At some point, your birthday cake becomes a fire hazard. Well, mine definitely would be. Can you believe we have a couple of teenagers on our hands, Ben? Asked Mrs. McDonald, shaking her head at the wonder of it all. Do you remember the day they were born? He replied, as if she could ever forget. I held each of them in my arms like a couple of footballs. I remember it like it was yesterday, and now look at them. Coke and Pep sat in the back seat silent. They were still stunned after what had happened to them at the house on the rock. Just minutes earlier, they had been captured by Dr. Warsaw in the Infinity Room, a pointy extension that hung off the house like the beak of a huge bird. Dr. Warsaw had given them a choice: die by electric shock from the wireless eye jolt he had invented, or plummet 150 feet to their deaths. They chose neither. Instead, Pep knocked the eye jolt out of his hands with a frisbee, and Coke used his infamous inflictor karate move to kick Dr. Warsaw out of the Infinity Room and to his virtually certain death. It would be a while before the twins would return to anything resembling normal. It's time for your birthday presents, Mrs. McDonald announced. Yay! A while was over. The twins, being of short attention span like most 13-year-olds, instantly forgot all about Dr. Warsaw and their ordeal at the house on the rock. What'd you get us? Pep asked anxiously, clapping her hands together. Just a little souvenir to help you remember our fun time in Wisconsin, Dr. McDonald told them. And with that, he presented them with a framed photo of the infinity room. Oh, just where they don't want to be. Coke gulped and Pep lurched backward in her seat involuntarily. Someone had died at the infinity room, and it had almost been them. They certainly didn't need a constant reminder hanging on the wall. But that's not all, said Mrs. McDonald in her best infomercial voice. She presented each of the twins with a little plastic bag filled with what appeared to be those styrofoam peanuts that are used to pack boxes. What is it? Pep asked. Cheese curds, Mrs. McDonald exclaimed. You can only get them in Wisconsin. Go ahead, taste one. When you bite into them, they squeak. I'm going to stop for just a minute here. Remember that these books are about 10 years old, and cheese curds are definitely available here in Ohio now, but I don't remember seeing them until maybe 10 years ago. So, and definitely when these books were written, they probably were only available in Wisconsin. But now we can get them here in Ohio, and they really are pretty tasty. We also got, okay, back to the book. We also got you some genuine Wisconsin cheese heads, Dr. McDonald added, pulling the big, goofy yellow hats out of a bag and handing one to each twin. Cool, huh? Like the big cheese heads that Green Bay Packer fans wear. Awesome, Dad, Pep said semi-sarcastically as she put on her cheese head. We knew you'd like them, said Dr. McDonald. He pulled out of the parking lot and into the first gas station on the road to fill the tank of the RV. Then he merged onto Route 14 East, heading out of Spring Green. Dr. McDonald had attended graduate school at the University of Wisconsin, and he knew the area well. Soon they were in the country, passing by the rolling hills and dairy farms of southern Wisconsin. Look, a cow, Pep hollered. Big wow, Coke said. You never saw a cow before? Be nice to your sister, warned Dr. McDonald. It's Wisconsin, Coke said. Do you have any idea how many cows they have in Wisconsin? I give up, Pep admitted. How many? 1.2 million, Coke said. There was no point in arguing with him. Coke had a photographic memory. He could remember virtually anything he ever saw, touched, heard, smelled, or tasted. And one day, several years earlier, he happened to be reading the back of a milk carton that said there were 1.2 million cows in Wisconsin. Of course, there could be more cows now, or less, but at some point in time, there were definitely 1.2 million cows in Wisconsin. Hey, speaking of cows, Dr. McDonald said, do you know what kind of milk comes from a forgetful cow? What kind? Everybody asked. Milk of amnesia. Lame, Dad, Coke said. Yeah, that was definitely a dad joke. Actually, Coke thought his father's joke was minorly funny, but it's not cool to laugh at your parents' jokes, as you well know. It seemed like there were dairy farms everywhere. Wisconsin is the cheese capital of the world. Coke put on his cheese head to get into the spirit of it. Pep munched on cheese curds, which actually did squeak when she bit into them, and they were also delicious. The people in Wisconsin probably put cheese on their cornflakes, Coke commented as he looked out the window. Cheese is a funny word, said Pep. Isn't it odd that we say cheese when we take a picture? Everybody does that, doofus, Coke said. Don't call your sister a doofus, said Mrs. McDonald. It's not nice. But why do we say cheese when we take a picture? Pep asked. Probably because it forces people to smile, Dr. McDonald said. You can't say cheese without smiling. Cheese. Yeah, it's hard. You guys should try it. Well, you can't say disease without smiling either, Coke pointed out. Why don't people say disease when they're getting their pictures taken? Well, everybody likes cheese, and nobody likes disease, said Mrs. McDonald. Doctors like disease, Coke said. If we didn't have diseases, all the doctors would be out of a job. We wouldn't even need doctors anymore. So it's actually in a doctor's interest for there to be lots of people with diseases. If all those people were suddenly cured, it wouldn't be a disaster. It would be a disaster for the medical industry. I think that's true, but I also think doctors would like it if people didn't have diseases. Everybody thought about that for a few minutes. With that logic, Pep said, if cars never broke down, all the mechanics would be out of jobs. That's true, Coke agreed. And if there were no arguments, said Dr. McDonald, we wouldn't need lawyers. I guess every bad thing that happens in the world is good for somebody, said Mrs. McDonald. Sometimes good things can be bad things, and sometimes bad things can be good things. Everybody chewed on that as they drove past the barns and silos that dotted the Wisconsin countryside. The twins were happy and relaxed for the first time since school had let out. Their long nightmare was finally over. They wouldn't have to worry about Dr. Warsaw or Mrs. Higgins or any of those bowler dude psychos who have been trying to kill them. Now they could enjoy the rest of their trip to Aunt Judy's wedding in Washington. It was like a great weight had been lifted off their shoulders. They had no idea that in a matter of hours they would be hearing the sizzle of boiling oil as it splattered against their skin. Mrs. McDonald fiddled with her portable GPS to find out that it is 885 miles from Spring Green, Wisconsin to Washington, D.C. Almost 16 hours of straight driving. That is, if you were going to do the whole trip without stopping, which would be crazy. The plan was for them to stay overnight in Chicago and Cleveland, and also a few other smaller towns along the way. We have 9 days to get to Washington for Aunt Judy's wedding on the 4th of July, she announced. So there's plenty of time to stop off along the way and see some cool sights. Mrs. McDonald had not seen her sister Judy in 10 years, ever since they'd had an argument about a boy Judy was dating. But that was ancient history now, and she was excited and a little nervous about seeing her sister again. "You're not going to force us to see the largest cow in the world and stuff like that, are you, Mom?" asked Coke. "I promise," Mrs. McDonald said. "No giant cows." The McDonalds had been driving for less than an hour on Route 14 when they entered the town of Middleton, Wisconsin, not far from Lake Mendota. "Stop the RV, Ben!" Mrs. McDonald suddenly shouted. Dr. McDonald was getting used to these sudden exclamations from his wife. He stomped on the brake and the RV screeched to a halt, almost getting rear-ended by the Toyota Camry behind it. "What is it?" Dr. McDonald said angrily, and there was a sign at the side of the road. "Visit the National Mustard Museum." "No," Coke moaned. "You gotta be kidding me. We already went to the Pez Museum. We went to the Yo-Yo Museum, and now this? Do we have to go? I hate mustard." "Are there any giant cows around for us to look at?" asked Pep. "We're right here," Mrs. McDonald said. "We have to go. If we didn't go, I would spend the rest of my life regretting that I was in Middleton, Wisconsin, and didn't visit the National Mustard Museum. This will be perfect for Amazing But True." 3 pairs of eyes rolled. Ooh, excuse me. There was no arguing with Mrs. Bridget McDonald when she decided to do something, and she was right. The oddballs who read her website every day would love to learn about a museum devoted to mustard. Dr. McDonald just sighed and drove to the center of Middleton, where Pep spotted a big sign over the storefront. National Mustard Museum. As soon as they walked into the museum, their eyes were assaulted by 5,000 jars, bottles, and tubes of mustard from all 50 states and more than 60 countries. Polish mustard, Chinese mustard, Australian Outback mustard. There were also antique mustard pots, mustard tins, vintage mustard advertisements, and other assorted mustard memorabilia. Dr. McDonald shook his head. As a respected history professor and author of The Impact of Coal on the Industrial Revolution, he was mystified by the fact that his research grant applications were frequently turned down, but somehow people managed to get funding to build museums devoted to hot dog condiments. He could have spent his summer researching his next book, but instead he was about to waste his money buying jars of mustard in a museum gift shop. Life wasn't fair. Mrs. McDonald got to work, snapping photos for her website and interviewing strolling mustard lovers about their personal mustard memories. She threw herself into her work, which is why her website was so successful. Even though she didn't personally love mustard, she filled out a form to join the Mustard of the Month Club, so every month for a year she would receive a new jar of mustard. "Will you folks be here the first Saturday in August?" asked the man behind the cash register. "No, we're on our way to my sister's wedding in Washington," replied Mrs. McDonald. "I haven't seen her in 10 years. "Too bad," the guy said. "The first Saturday in August is National Mustard Day. We have a lot of festivities planned." Coke and Pep looked at each other and mouthed the words, "Let's get out of here." When they finally did get out of there, Mrs. McDonald was carrying a large shopping bag. "I couldn't resist," she told the twins. "I bought you another birthday present." "Let me guess," Coke said. "A jar of mustard?" "Of course not," Mrs. McDonald said. "I know you don't like mustard. Go ahead and open it." Coke opened the bag, and inside was a toilet seat with these words printed on it. All right, oh, it's probably going to be backwards. "Poop on you." Get it? Mrs. McDonald said. "I'm going to let you guys figure that one out." Poupon is a kind of mustard. "We get it, Mom," Pep said. "Can we go now?" Coke and Pep had no idea what they were going to do with a poop on you toilet seat, but they made sure to thank their mother and tell her it was just what they always wanted. You should always accept gifts from loved ones graciously, even if somebody has just given you the dumbest thing in the world. The RV passed by Madison, the capital of Wisconsin. In the back seat, the twins amused themselves with crossword puzzles and playing cards, blissfully ignorant of the fact that they would be soon lowered into a vat of boiling oil. But you, fortunate reader, know it's coming and are probably wondering when that exciting event will happen. Patience, no skipping ahead. Dr. McDonald was taking the scenic route, staying off the interstate highway and enjoying the view. Less than an hour from the Mustard Museum, the RV entered the town of Fort Atkinson and rolled to a stop on the south side of the historic downtown area outside the Hoard Historical Museum. Why are we stopping here? Pep asked, annoyance in her voice. Because this is the National Dairy Shrine Visitor Center, Mrs. McDonald informed her. Dairy Shrine? The twins said together, and so it was, a shrine to all things dairy. The place was jam-packed with antique milking machines, a dog-powered butter churn, and even Elsie the cow's original blanket. Mrs. McDonald took notes for Amazing But True, while Dr. McDonald examined the dioramas of pioneer dairy life. The twins walked around, searching desperately for an exit sign. Look, kids, Mrs. McDonald said enthusiastically, the National Dairy Hall of Fame. On the Wall of Pioneers were Harvey D. Thatcher, inventor of the glass milk bottle, Arthur Bayer, world authority on ice cream, and Thorkild Tom Knudsen, the developer of Half and Half. This place is a snooze fest, Coke whispered to his sister. They don't even have a cool gift shop, Pep replied as she leafed through the only book for sale, A History of Dairy Marketing in America. All right, I love books. I don't think I would even read that one. The twins would not have been so snarky if they had any idea that they would soon be dropped into a vat of boiling oil, but as you well know, they were clueless. Thankfully, the McDonalds did not spend much time at the dairy shrine and were soon heading south and east on Route 12. In about an hour, they passed a sign. Welcome to Illinois, the land of Lincoln. Woohoo, Coke hollered. Did you know that Illinois is called the land of Lincoln, even though Abraham Lincoln was born in Kentucky? Thank you, Mr. Know-It-All, muttered Pep, who long ago had grown tired of her brother's encyclopedic memory. Are we going to stop soon? I'm getting hungry. Soon, honey, Mrs. McDonald said. I know the perfect place to stop for dinner. Where? The kids asked. You'll see. The twins would have to remain in suspense for almost an hour as they continued on Route 12 south and east through Illinois. Eventually, they entered the town of Des Plaines. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, so I apologize if I've got it wrong, which is 20 miles outside of Chicago. Dr. McDonald took a right fork onto Lee Street and passed a motel, and then the familiar yellow arches came into view. He pulled into the McDonald's parking lot. Here it is, Mrs. McDonald announced. 15 cents for a burger, Dr. McDonald exclaimed. That's a good deal. What? Pep asked. It's a McDonald's. They have those everywhere. We drove an hour just to go to a McDonald's, asked Coke. Oh, it's not just any McDonald's, Mrs. McDonald told them. This is the first McDonald's. The first ever? Asked Pep as she got out of the RV. She was still wearing her cheese head. And indeed it was. At this precise location, 400 North Lee Street, Des Plaines, Illinois, the first McDonald's opened on April 15th, 1955. It was torn down in 1984, but a replica was built on the spot, sort of a museum to McDonald's, and across the street was a modern McDonald's restaurant. All right, so we have the exact location, 400 North Lee Street, L-E-E, Des Plaines, Illinois. So you can go on your Google Maps or whatever map thing you're looking at and see if you can find it. See what it looks like. Okay, this is a really, really long chapter. My goodness. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and finish it, though. All right, so back to the book. So this is where the decline of our civilization began, said Dr. McDonald. Chain restaurants, cheap, bland, standardized food, wasteful packaging, rampant obesity, the end of home cooking. Don't be such a downer, Dad, said Coke. This is sacred ground. This is where Happy Meals began. And Ronald McDonald, the Big Mac, Golden Arches, Egg McMuffins, supersizing extra value meals. The Whopper, added Pepsi. That's Burger King, you dope. Don't call your sister a dope, warned Mrs. McDonald. The kids pressed their noses against the window to peer inside. It looked like a real McDonald's, except there were antique milkshake machines, vintage ads, photos about the history of McDonald's on the walls. and some mannequins standing at the counter in old-time uniforms. Pep tried to pull open the door, but it was locked. "I'm sorry, but the museum is closed today," said a voice behind them. The McDonald family turned around to see a chunky teenage boy standing before them. He was dressed in the same old-time uniform as the mannequins inside. He had pimples on his face, and a shock of red hair poked out from under his paper hat. The boy looked unmistakably like Archie, the comic book character. If Archie could be cloned and stuffed, this kid would be the result. He appeared to be a few years older than the twins, maybe 16? "Closed," said Mrs. McDonald, putting her hands on her hips to indicate annoyance. "We drove all the way from California to see this." Well, that wasn't exactly true, but it gave more weight to Mrs. McDonald's indignation. "Well, you're in luck," said the teenager who looked just like Archie. "Our special mobile French fry exhibit is visiting here today. Your kids will love it." And he pointed to an 18-wheeler truck at the far end of the parking lot. It had a big picture of Ronald McDonald on the side and the words, "The Multimedia World of French Fries." That seemed to mollify Mrs. McDonald somewhat. She took her hands off her hips. "Maybe we should go eat first before we do this," Dr. McDonald said. "We're all pretty hungry for dinner." "This exhibit will only be here for a little while," the teenager said. "I have to go set up another exhibit in Washington. And I'm sorry, but the demonstration is just for kids 13 and under. No grown-ups allowed. Today's our birthday," Pep said. "We just turned 13. "Well, happy birthday," the Archie clone said. "The French fry show takes only about a half hour. Do you want to see it?" "How much does it cost?" Mrs. McDonald asked as she fished in her purse for her wallet. "It's completely free," the kid said as he pulled 2 tickets out of his pocket. "Come on, you deserve a break today." I don't know about you guys. I'm getting a little suspicious about this. "Of course it's free," Dr. McDonald grumbled. "It's a half-hour commercial for McDonald's. They use it to get innocent children addicted to fast food. They should pay us to let our kids see this junk." "I don't know if I want to do it," Pep said, eyeing the 18-wheeler. "Oh, go ahead, honey," encouraged Mrs. McDonald. "It sounds like fun. And while you're in there, your dad and I can go check out the Square Deal shoe store. I read in the guidebook that the tallest man in the world, Robert Wadlow, used to live around here. He wore size 26 shoes, and they have one on display at the store. It's just 2 blocks from here." That is a big shoe. While their parents went to look for the largest shoe in the world, Coke and Pep followed Archie Clone to the big truck. "Are you sure we should be doing this?" Pep whispered to her brother as they walked across the parking lot. "We don't know this kid. He can do anything to us." "Will you relax for once in your life?" Coke whispered back. "The kid is a nerd. He's harmless. Look at him. He looks just like Archie from the comics." "You probably think I look kind of nerdy," Archie Clone said. "No, not at all," Coke and Pep said together. "Guys at school used to make fun of me," he continued, "but it doesn't bother me anymore." Actually, Coke felt a little sorry for Archie Clone. Having to wear a silly uniform and drive around doing demonstrations for McDonald's, it seemed like a lousy summer job, and having to walk around your whole life as the spitting image of Archie must be no picnic either. "It's minimum wage, but there are fringe benefits," Archie Clone said, almost as if he could hear what Coke had been thinking. "I hope we get free samples," Pep whispered to her brother. "Remember the time we went to Hershey Park and they gave us free samples at Chocolate World? That was cool." "Your cheeseheads rock," Archie Clone said cheerfully. "I'm into hats myself. I've always been fascinated by the things that people choose to wear on their heads. At home, I have a collection of hundreds of hats. Do you think that's weird?" "No," Coke and Pep lied. "I guess you and your parents drove down through Wisconsin." "Yeah," Pep said. "We tried cheese curds for the first time." "Yum," the Archie Clone said. "Can I assume you let kids like our French fries too?" "Oh, yes," Pep replied. "We love them." At McDonald's, we peel, slice, freeze, and cook 2 million pounds of potatoes every day, Archie Clone told them, having obviously memorized his speech. "Americans consume an average of about 50 pounds of fresh potatoes and 30 pounds of frozen fries each year. McDonald's is the largest buyer of potatoes in the United States." "Dude, you sure know a lot about French fries," Coke said, hiding a sneer. "It's my job to know," Archie Clone replied. "Anybody ever say that you look like that character Archie from the comics?" Coke asked. "Every day," Archie Clone replied. "People call me Archie Clone." Archie Clone pushed a button on the back of the 18-wheeler. The door swung open to reveal a gigantic display. It was like a rolling museum devoted to all things potato. Video monitors lined the walls depicting the planting, harvesting, storing, cooking, and eating of potatoes. And in the center was an enormous wire basket, like the kind that's used to make French fries. "This is cool," Coke said as the platform they were standing on raised them up to the level of the truck. Is this one of those virtual reality rides? You might say that, Archie Clone said, pushing the button again to close the door behind them. It's an interactive, hands-on 3D experience, sort of like the ones they have at Disneyland. He led the twins up a set of stairs and helped them climb into the big wire basket. Is it going to be scary? Asked Pep. A little, Archie admitted as he closed the top of the basket. But the scary part doesn't last long. The cool thing is you'll get to see the process of making French fries from the point of view of the spud itself. Isn't this exciting, Pep said. We're going to be like potatoes. Coke glanced over at Archie Clone and noticed a wicked little smile at the corners of his mouth. It was at that moment Coke realized he and his sister were not on a virtual reality ride. This truck wasn't part of the McDonald's museum. They weren't at a mobile exhibit about French fries. They'd stumbled into a trap. Hey, Coke shouted, grabbing and shaking the wire basket that now surrounded them. We changed our minds. We don't want to do this. But it was too late. Under the baskets, gallons of oil had begun to pour into a large pool. Steam was coming off the oil, and it was bubbling. Coke and Pep could smell it. It smelled like something cooking. Oh, what's going on? Pep stammered, grabbing her brother's hand. Archie Clone looked at them, grinning from ear to ear. This is my favorite part of the job, he said. Remember those fringe benefits I told you about? He pushed a button, and the wire basket dropped a few inches. It was attached to a large motor and gear system. You don't even work for McDonald's, Coke shouted, pointing at Archie Clone. Nope, he replied. I work for a different employer. I think you may have heard of him. Dr. Herman Warsaw. And that is where we're going to stop today. That one ran long. I didn't realize that chapter was quite so long, so I apologize for that. But yikes, Coke and Pep are going to get dunked into the hot oil like potatoes. That's not good at all. So we will pick up tomorrow here to find out what happens. We got quite a bit left, so I'm assuming they're going to escape from the basket and not get turned into French fries. So come back tomorrow and we will read some more. And I will see you guys then. Get out and enjoy the sunshine today. It's beautiful. And I hope to see everybody in person again really soon. I miss everybody. But keep reading. This book, oh, I forgot to say this. This book is available on Hoopla. So use your Hoopla and library account to get a copy of it so you can read along with me, especially because I tend to read fast. So sometimes I think it helps if you can actually see the words. All right, so I'm going to sign off and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.